Well, thanks for listening, everybody. You have found us once again. This is Wooden Sticks. My name is Kevin Gorg, the host of the show. We are recording at the Aquarius Home Services studio per usual. Want to thank Andrew Height. He continues to work the pavement, and he's the guy to get in touch with if you want to be a part of the show. AHEYDD at talknorth.com. Andrew Height will hook you up. Whitey's the absolute best. Looking forward to the show today. It's going to be a fun hockey conversation with a Stanley Cup winner and great Minnesota ties. Started in Grand Rapids, which is, for my money, as great a hockey community as we have here in Minnesota. You look at the tradition. Back in my era, the Halloween Machine, of course, had Jim Jetlin on Wooden Sticks way back at the beginning of our journey here months ago. But one of the few rinks that still has season tickets for their high school hockey games. That's a fact. It's a wonderful place. If you haven't been up there to the Civic Center in Grand Rapids, it's worth your time. Any winter, just make the drive up there, and it is a high school hockey mecca. That's where Alex got his start and went on to play for Don Lucia and the Golden Gophers, was drafted in the second round. We're going to get into all the details of his career, but, getting to know Alex now as a member of the Minnesota Wild these last few years, and I also covered him briefly in his time at the U of M. He's always been just a really down-to-earth guy, super modest guy, and really low-key. And so I want to dive into some of his great stories. He played with Marc-Andre Fleury, played with Sidney Crosby, won that Stanley Cup. He now has the unique opportunity post his career after retiring to be a part of Bill Guerin's staff and evaluate the talent that the Wild have. But he has intimate relationships that knows the in and outs of the superstar players in that locker room, like Brock Faber, like Kirill Kaprizov. So I think a really fascinating conversation will be had today with Alex, and it's just some great memories along the way. And, for me, I'm always fascinated with what these guys do when they get that Stanley Cup. It's such a monumental moment in any hockey player's life. And I've watched so many great shows around that celebration and then that special day that they get in their hometown. And I really have never had this conversation with Alex in all my years of covering him. So that'll be a fun thing to learn as well. And then just dive into what it's like to be retired and watch training camp, because, it's hard to replace hockey when it leaves your life. And for all of us that played the game, you're going to leave at different points. And I tell people this all the time. I'm lucky enough in my position now as a broadcaster for near 20 years on what's called Bally Sports North now, was Fox Sports North, to talk to a lot of high school and college teams. And I remind them of this. I don't care if you're Alex Goligoski and you've been to the top of the mountain, or if you're some schmuck like me that never got past Division III hockey. It's a gift. It's a blessing. And I don't remember any of the actual game, like big moments. And I'm going back to youth hockey, to state tournaments, to junior hockey for me in the USHL, and then playing college hockey at St. Thomas when they were D3. What I remember are the pasta feeds and the bus rides and the locker room and the banter, and in college, the hockey house and the hockey parties. These are the memories I take with me forever. And what I tell the young people out there that are, high school and college age, is to cherish every moment you have, because when it's gone, I don't care where you go and what you do, you can't get that back. And I tell every hockey player I can possibly reach that time you have in the locker room together, where you all get your gear on and you're ready to go out to battle together. I don't care what level you're at. It's sacred. And once it's gone, you can't replace it. So back to the front end of this conversation, want to get to where Goose is now, because he is now for the first time dealing with the fact that those feelings and that excitement have been channeled to a new position. And he's going to be more along the lines of scouting talent and helping piece together big decisions for Bill Guerin and his staff. So we'll get his thoughts on maybe moving on to the next level of his career. He's had success everywhere he's gone. And I think you'll feel it in our conversation today that he's a no BS guy. He's a real straight shooter. And we're going to get some great stuff going today with Alex Goligoski on Wooden Sticks. I want to thank our big-time sponsor, John Schweitz, and Minnesota Masonic Charities. And I know when you hear Freemasons, you always think of those secret handshakes and those goofy hats and some of those pancake breakfasts, and that's all well and good. But Minnesota Masonic Charities really would prefer that you think about the work they do right here in the Twin Cities. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the U of M, Masonic Children's Hospital, and of course the Masonic Home over in Bloomington. Just a few examples of the important work that Freemasons support here in Minnesota. They are the largest fraternal organization in the world. They consistently will answer the call when it comes to charitable needs, and I thank John Schweitz and Minnesota Masonic Charities for their participation in the show. When we come back after this quick break, formerly of the Minnesota Wild and a Stanley Cup champion, Alex Goligoski. Welcome back to Wooden Sticks. We are recording today, as always, from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Super excited about our guest. As I mentioned in the intro, his career is closely tied to the great state of hockey here in Minnesota. It is Alex Goligoski from Grand Rapids. Goose, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I have followed you all the way through. When you were at the U of M, I was just starting my TV career at the time. It was Fox Sports North, so I covered you for a couple years in college. And then clearly once you got to the pros, we always follow our Minnesota athletes. And then, of course, your time with the Wild. But I don't know where it all began. And, here on Wooden Sticks, we like to take it back old school to when the equipment was different. It was a different era. And you're still young. You're still in your 30s, but you're old enough where it's changed dramatically. How did you come to the game of hockey?
Yeah. Really, probably before I had any real memories. I see pictures of me out on the ice. I don't even really remember it, but it was just, I have an older brother, Nick, who's 4.5 years older than me. So, I'm sure he was on skates at 5 or 6 years old. So whenever I could stand up and join him, me, him and my dad would skate at the outdoor rink, right up the street from us. So it started there and kind of fell in love with it. And, just as the years go by, you just keep moving up the ranks and stuff. So it was just, that's how it got started, and really fell in love with the game, just going and screwing around on the outdoor ice.
I think of Grand Rapids, I think of so much like the history there, the rink, where there are like season tickets at the high school games, which is unheard of, the tradition of the Halloween machine. As a kid, how much did you watch that high school team, and how much did it motivate you to be a part of something where Grand Rapids hockey is like a part of the culture up there?
Yeah, it's such a, like you said, it's such a close-knit community, and everyone really rallies around hockey. It seems like so many people play, and it's such a big part of the community. So yeah, growing up, it was, we spent our Friday nights watching the Indians at the time, the Thunderhawks now. We'd go watch the high school team at IRA Civic Center there, and it was just kind of what everyone did. They, like you said, they still do the season tickets up there, and they've got a great arena for people who haven't been. But there's just a ton of tradition, and to this day, people still rally around it. They have sellouts for their high school games, and it's just really cool to be a part of that. And coming from from a smaller town up north, to have that community, and I don't know, it's just special. So it's I think that's a big reason why there's so many people that have success from up there.
And I think it's harder to stand out in places like Grand Rapids because all the kids are pretty good skaters. The teams at all levels, from squirts all the way up to high school. Even if you're Alex Goligoski, you're not going to stand out as maybe being like this phenom that's going to end up winning a Stanley Cup and playing all these years in the NHL. But you had to know at some point, as you were playing youth hockey, that you had a chance to be halfway decent. When did the light bulb go on for you, Alex, that hockey might be something that not only you're pretty good at because you're playing in Grand Rapids, but you might be able to play Division I hockey. You might be able to play beyond that. And I think we all had that dream growing up, but I think for some players like you, at some point it had to be a reality.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, when I look back and I think about that, I get asked that question sometimes. I don't really. I think I was kind of oblivious to it, which is good. I mean, I think I was kind of a late bloomer too. I was always a good hockey player, but I was kind of late to the game for growing and everything. I was always smaller, and um, so it's not like I was ever really dominating or anything like that. But I just kind of, I think I just kind of slowly kept getting better, and I could see myself kind of passing kids once, got to kind of my junior year of high school and started to get a little bit more attention. Kind of from that fall elite league had just started for high school, and so it was the first year of that was my junior year. I had to try out to make that team for the northern team, and then that was really, I think, a big um, a good way for more people to get eyes on me and get my name out there. So I started talking to some scouts and some junior teams and stuff like that from there. So I'd say probably around my junior year of high school, but yeah, you don't really know where it's going to go. I think we all have dreams of being pro hockey players. So I don't know. I just, kind of kept my head down and kept working. And, I think seeing myself kind of pass some kids that were always kind of a little bit better than me was really motivating for me. So, yeah, there were a lot of years there from, kind of my junior year to high school to, I mean, really, into my pro career where I really focused on hockey and just, no one's going to outwork me. I was, if I was going to do this, I wanted to do it 100%. And um, so I think it was really motivating for me.
When it got right down to it, were you always in your mind wanted to be a Golden Gopher? Were there other colleges in the mix, and how did you come to that choice?
Yeah, no, I always wanted to be a Gopher. Yeah, I only got college letters from the Gophers, UMD, and North Dakota, and North Dakota didn't even follow up on it. So it was really UMD or Minnesota for me. And I had two visits scheduled, and I came down for my visit to the University of Minnesota, and I knew I mean, it just everything felt right. It was where I wanted to be, and I left my meeting with Don Lucia and was talking with my dad on the drive back up to Grand Rapids, and I was just like, that's it. So I didn't end up even taking my visit to Duluth, but it made sense for me. It felt right, and it was obviously the team I wanted to play for.
When you play on that big sheet, you play the great schedule, and when you play at the University of Minnesota, every team you play, you're going to likely get their best shot. So how much did those seasons as a Gopher shape you as the pro you became? Because to me, it looks like a perfect fit looking back now on your Gopher career.
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky in a lot of ways. I was able to hop right into college hockey without having to go play juniors, which I didn't really want to do. I wanted to start my college career, and there was a spot for me. So I didn't know how it would go, how much I would play, but um, it just worked out that I was able to hop right in and play a lot. And like you mentioned, on the big sheet, and um, we had targets on our back for sure. They were coming off, national championships recently, and at the same time, WCHA was so awesome back then. It was, they had uh, Ryan Duncan, TJ Oshie,
Oh,
Jonathan Taves, that line at North Dakota, Wisconsin. They won a national championship when I was there. They were really tough. It was kind of like, the end of the glory days for the WCHA, I think. So it was, I mean, everyone was so competitive, and um, so it was amazing. And like you said, playing on that big ice and getting to kind of showcase my skating, and it was a good place for me to look good and to grow. So really, shaped my game to move forward eventually to pro hockey.
and it's funny you mentioned the glory days because I started my broadcasting career in
Hmm.
'06 and did some work for Fox Sports North, both with the Wild and the Gophers. And I look back at that time when I first started doing TV, and that period of time that probably went for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, where I feel like, Alex, Friday and Saturday night was appointment TV in college hockey. If you lived in the Midwest, you had North Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, St. Cloud, Bemidji, Minnesota State down in Mankato. And everybody knew that on Friday and Saturday at 7 o'clock, around that time, that the biggest game in town was on somewhere. And I think we're missing that now. And again, college hockey, it's fine, but I don't think it'll ever be that good because of that, like you mentioned, that glory day of college hockey when everybody knew where to find the product on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was so special because, I mean, the amount of Minnesota teams involved, and they were all good. And then, North Dakota and Grand Forks and Wisconsin right across the border that way. And then, I mean, Denver and Colorado College had great teams with great players. And it was just like, yeah, it was like every weekend it was rivalry week, right? Like that you were always
Yes.
playing a rival, and it was, like you said, must watch TV, and the games were so intense. I mean, it was, you play Friday, Saturday, so you're just chomping at the bit after coming off a week of practice, and everyone's ready to go. And yeah, it's a little different now with how things are going in college hockey and everything, but I'm like so grateful that I was able to experience that WCHA because I mean, I'm obviously biased because that was when I played, but it was amazing. I loved every second of it.
And in that time frame, as you start your college path, you get picked by the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2004, I believe, 61st overall. That, for any young player, that, I don't care where you get drafted, the fact that an NHL team wants you, that's got to give you a little wind underneath your sails as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll never forget. I was driving to my buddy Sean Flood's graduation party when I got the call from Ben Hankinson, my agent, and he was just like, "You just got drafted." I was like, "What?" Because even he was just like, hopefully day two, maybe like fifth, sixth round, someone grabs you. Who knows? There was a little less communication back then when people were getting drafted, especially small town northern Minnesota kids that are playing high school hockey. You don't really know, but yeah, Pittsburgh. I used to go to Minnesota hockey camps, and Chuck Grillo was a Pittsburgh scout, and
Yep.
he must have, really made a strong case for me because I'm not sure if anyone else had really even seen me. But yeah, they took me into the second round. I was shocked, but obviously thrilled. And yeah, so that was how it happened for me. A bit of a surprise, but again, one of those things that's super motivating. If someone that believes in you, a team that believes in you, a scout that puts his neck on the line for you. You want to do right by those guys. So yeah, one of those another motivating factor.
Now you arrive with the Penguins, coincidentally, right about the same time that the franchise really changes forever with Sidney Crosby, one of the all-time greats now we know in National Hockey League history. When you got to your very first camp, and you got to see, Sid the Kid, what was that experience like, and how good did you think he was going to be? And I had to be a thrill for you because now like, hey, we could be halfway decent. We have a star.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was in college, I remember hearing rumors like, "Oh, the Penguins are going to go to Kansas City and all this stuff," and then it was like blink of an eye. Sidney Crosby, they get that draft pick, and it's like they got Fleury before that, Malkin after Crosby, Stahl after Malkin. It's like, oh my gosh, here we go. So it's like, I mean, things changed quick for that organization for sure. And so it was by the time I had signed to turn pro, things were really, really moving quick at that point, and the team was getting really good. And I'd obviously watched those guys a little bit while I was in school, and then when I had signed, I was just excited to get down there. And yeah, I mean, obviously, almost in awe with Sid and how he goes about his business, and even at such a young age at the time, just what a leader, what a role model even for the older guys, because he just goes on there every day working on his game. He's already the best player on the ice, but working harder than everybody who he's already better than. And it creates a culture and environment that for a young kid like me, or, I mean, I'm pretty much the same age as him, but as a kid just coming in and starting his pro career, I think I've said this before, like what a culture to go into, and what a way to like shape your thinking and your expectation of the way you need to play and the way you need to prepare and practice, and how you're going to be a pro. Because I have no doubt that I would not have probably had the career I had if I don't see that, right? Like, I
Yep.
maybe don't play for that long, or who knows, how far I even get off the ground. But so I mean, yeah, culture, people talk about it all the time, but it is the number one thing you need in an organization. And when you have guys like that drive it like him, yeah, everyone's going to be better for it. Everyone in your organization, your team, your players, and just everyone moving forward.
And it's funny, his rookie year, he gets all the hoopla. He gets to Pittsburgh, and that first year they were still trying to kind of get some traction going. And so his rookie year, it was a fiasco for the Penguins. What's funny about that, Alex, is that was, I believe, 2006, and they were a team kind of like you'd expect them to be. They had picked near the top of the draft for years, and kind of what happened in Chicago, where they picked all the right guys from Kane to Taves, and the
Yep.
rest is history. They had done. You mentioned Flower, Malkin, Crosby, but it still hadn't come together. You get there right after you're done at the University of Minnesota. So now we're in that 08, 09, 2010 time frame, and as you mentioned, it happens quick. They go from being a cellar dweller as recent as '06 to then being a team in the cup that loses to Detroit, and then eventually you guys get over the hump and beat that same team the following year. But how does it come together so fast? Because you go from nowhere to a contender in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's exactly what kind of happened with Chicago too, and I'm sure there's other examples of it. When you're at the top of that draft, I mean, if especially if you're hitting on a generational guy like a Crosby, or Patrick Kane, um, if you're in the ballpark with those other top picks, it's going to move really quick, because organizations are smart, and they know when it's time to load up, and they're going to bring in good veterans to put around them. And um, so it'll move quick. And yeah, like you said, you got to hit on the right guys. But for any of those organizations or fan bases that are down in the dumps, it can move quick. There's a lot of evidence of that. So it's exciting when you start to see that.
And I don't know, in your wildest dreams, I know a lot of us playing street hockey back in the '70s and '80s, we played in plenty of Stanley Cups, and we were pretending to hoist that trophy over our head. In your wildest dreams, though, like you think about winning a Stanley Cup. I was just watching a documentary on the NHL Network over the weekend called "The Names on the Cup," and it's spectacular. Lanny McDonald, the veteran that won the cup with Calgary back in the late '80s, is featured in this documentary. It talks about when he had the cup and his dad was able to go and look at that trophy and look at some of the names that his family's name was going to be shared with, right? Like when your name is on the cup, when you win that sucker, like you're on there with Guy Lafleur, you're on there with Bobby Orr, you're on there with the greats of the game. And in your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine that you'd have a chance to win a Stanley Cup?
No, yeah, I mean, it seems like a pipe dream. So I mean, I love the commercial. I think they still air it to this day, where it's like where the reporters asking the guys on the ice, after, like, what's this feel like, and no one can find the words, right? Like it's just
Yep.
like when you if you get that opportunity to like lift the cup or look at the cup and see your name on it with
Mm.
the names that are on it, you know, all over it. It's just like it's crazy to look at. And it's what a what a crazy thing to go through, and the infancy of your NHL career, because uh, it feels like it's like a dream even looking back on it.
So everybody gets the cup. One of the great traditions is your time with the cup. I don't think I've ever had this conversation with you. Take us through how you get the cup and then what you end up doing with your time with Lord Stanley.
Yeah, I mean, I probably had the least prepared day with the cup of anybody in cup history. I really had nothing planned other than I talked to our arena manager. Shout out to Dale Anderson at the IRA Civic Center, and we
Yes.
set up. We set up. So everyone could come see it at the rink. Everyone in the community could come see it and get their picture taken and do all that. So that was the only real thing we had set up. Other than that, we called up I called up a bunch of my buddies, and my parents called up their friends, and we had a little party in our garage, and we just kind of hung out at home. We bar hopped a little bit with it at night, but then just ended up back in our driveway. We're all just having some beverages and kind of soaking it in. Everyone just kind of, I mean, it's such a thing to be around. You just kind of you look at people, and people are just sitting there and staring at it. I have so many pictures from that day. Like you see people they're just staring at the cup. It's funny, but no, it was a great day. I'm super proud to bring it back to Grand Rapids, and it was a lot of fun having the Stanley Cup there.
So you end up playing for 4 NHL teams. We all know you started in Pittsburgh, won the cup there. We know where you finished with your hometown team, the Minnesota Wild. What was it like? And again, you're playing the NHL, so it's all good. None of it's bad, but the move to Dallas, the move to Arizona. For all of us in Minnesota, Dallas is the evil empire, as you know, because they
Mm-hmm.
took the North Stars away, and Arizona seems so far away from Minnesota and Grand Rapids. What were those two climates like? Those two cities like for you as a hockey player?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I honestly loved everywhere I played. I couldn't be more happy with how everything went. But Dallas was great. I mean, it was super unexpected to get traded. I was, having a great start to my career. I was in Pittsburgh, but they were made a great offer, and then they took it. And but I was, I mean, if you're going to get traded, why not when you're young and you know living by myself, and I don't have any real ties to the city yet, so it was off to Dallas. I love Dallas. I was there for 5.5 years. Um, it was awesome. I mean, it's obviously an NHL team in a southern city, and they were kind of similar. We were kind of on our way up when I got there, and we
Mm-hmm.
ended up, by the time I left, we were. I mean, the year we lost to St. Louis in the Western Conference semis, that team that year, I mean, we could have won the cup that year. I thought if we got by St. Louis in that game seven, I think we had San Jose. We would have had San Jose after that, which was a team that
Yep.
we had their number, and it was just like I think we went 6-0 against them during the years. Like I don't know, it just felt like, and we were healthy, and I don't know, we just couldn't get by St. Louis in that game seven. But no, we had some great teams down there. Played with some really good players. And had a blast. And it really, the fan base from when I got there to where it was at the end. I mean, they're selling out buildings again and stuff. So it was really cool to kind of grow along with that team at that time. And then Arizona too. Uh, Kind of same deal. I got there. There's a lot of turnover going on. Coach, GM, owners, players, everything. So it looked a lot different by the time I left than when I got there. But I loved my time there. I loved living there. They actually have a great fan base there, which I'm sure not a lot of people assume, but they do. They have awesome fans. I hope they get a team again, because
Me
there was,
too.
yeah, I mean, they have to at some point. Someone's got to bring a team back there. But a great place to play, great place to live, great fans. So hopefully they can figure that out. But um, yeah, I mean, for playing in the NHL in the southern states, you don't really know what it'll be like. It was awesome. There's a lot of hockey fans down there, a lot of Midwesterners and Canadians that have migrated down there over the years, so they have ties.
And I love downtown Dallas, and I think of Arizona, and it's just one of my favorite vacation spots. Is it hard sometimes for you as a hockey player to not be a little distracted by the golf that's everywhere, the distraction of the weather, and whether you're going out for a hike? I look at those places, and I get why we all play hockey here in Minnesota. Man, in the wintertime, that's all we have to do. It just feels different out there. Ryan Carter, who you played with and works with us on our broadcast now, swears teams in warmer climates feel better at the start of the playoffs because of the climate. He played everywhere too, right? He won a cup in Anaheim, but he played in some colder places like Jersey, like Minnesota, and he swears that the body feels better when it's able to get out and get fresh air and have that sunshine every day. I don't know. I'm no psychologist. I haven't played in those climates like you have, but he absolutely would tell you that's the truth.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, it's like coming out of the rink and having the sun shining.
Hmm.
It's a breath of fresh air. I mean, it, sure, maybe there's other people that might get caught up in it, and hockey they takes a back seat to their golf game or whatever. But I never saw that with anybody, and I think everyone that I've played with from those southern states appreciates the warm weather. And I mean, it's it's easy to get away from the rink, and I think that's sometimes a struggle in those markets where you're constantly hounded and constantly surrounded by hockey and the cold weather, and it's the only thing to do. And so I don't know. For me, I loved it. I thought it made it exciting to go to the rink, and it was refreshing and a good way to get away from hockey too. So I think it works out well.
One, if there was a bingo card way back to when you were a kid growing up in Grand Rapids, being a Golden Gopher would be on there. Playing with the best player in the world would be on there, which you did. Winning a Stanley Cup, and then playing for your hometown team, just like playing for the Gophers, playing for the Minnesota Wild. You end your career playing for your hometown NHL team, and I just think of getting to know you these last few years a little bit better, and watching the way that fans connected with you whenever we had an interview on the ice, and we're going to get to one of the more special ones here in a bit. But just having that opportunity to have family and friends watch you play locally, that had to be a thrill too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I say this all the time, but like I I do feel genuinely so lucky for my entire career, but to finish in Minnesota was amazing. I mean, you're I've been gone for the previous 14 years playing other places, and a lot of family and friends, big fans and supporters of me from afar, and to get back here and just play where I'm from, play in my home state, have people be able to come to games and see me more often, and for me to be able to see them more often, and then to retire as a member of the Minnesota Wild and just continue living here and staying here, and my kids don't have to switch schools, and just I mean, who gets to do that? Like what percentage of NHLers get to do that? So it was incredible. I'm so grateful for my time here.
And then I got to tell you, this would be my 19th year covering the Wild, and look forward to every season. And I've had so many great memories. Top five for me, though, is November 20th, 2022. You know where I'm going. It's the night we celebrated you getting 1,000 games in the NHL. And I went back and went to YouTube and got choked up watching this. But the shots of your family in the suite, you being on the ice and scoring an overtime winner against Carolina, it had a storybook or a movie type of feel to it. And then the interview that you gave us on the ice after, where you're literally tearing up and talking to the 19,000 fans. I got to tell you, Alex, that was special, and that's always going to be a memory that I cherish. I can't imagine though what it was like for you and your family, and even looking back now, it's got to be a pretty awesome thing to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I still get chills and get choked up or tear up when I see them play the highlight or whatever. But no, what I mean, that's the best in sports when stuff like that happens, right? Like
Yes.
where it's just like you get that moment where it's like, oh my gosh, what are the odds, And it's just like it was such a emotional moment for so many reasons. Just having all my a bunch of family and friends there, and on a night where you know the team is celebrating me for that moment to happen was it was incredible. So that for sure my favorite individual moment in hockey ever. So it was awesome.
But it wasn't a fluky goal. Like sometimes defensemen get these goals where they flip a wrist shot from the blue line and it banks off somebody's breezers and goes in. This was a highlight reel goal, Alex, all by itself, without all the hoopla around it. It was one hell of a goal.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I was a little bit surprised to get the call in overtime after eating healthy scratches for a month before the game. So I was grateful for my overtime shift and Sammy Steele with a beautiful little saucer pass to me. So that was awesome.
So you transition now to the next phase in your hockey career. You're going to stay on and help Bill Guerin with the team, and we've had a chance to connect a little bit during training camp. You've been on the road to watch him play some preseason hockey. I got to ask you, as training camp kind of comes to an end this week, as a player, and this camp specifically has been a really hard camp. Watching John Hines and the coaching staff put these guys through the paces, I can't imagine you miss this part of it. You're going to miss opening night. You're going to miss some of those things along the way. It's natural as a player. You can't be missing training camp.
The first training camp practice I went to, I knew 5 minutes into it that I did not miss it. Yeah, and this camp in particular, they're going hard. It's been a really good hard camp, but that's good. They're going to be ready to go. They look really good. But yeah, I'm sure, when the lights go down and the national anthem's going and everything, you miss playing the games. You don't miss training
Sure.
camp. I'll tell you that. But no, it's going to be cool to see the other side of it, and hopefully still help out the Wild in some capacity. And I care about the organization. I care about the guys that are out there playing. They're all buddies, and so I'm excited to still stay around it.
I want to ask you about a couple of players that you've played with here on this roster, specifically for Wild fans that listen to our show. And I'll start with Kirill Kaprizov. Listening to you talk about Sidney Crosby when he first started in the league and as he evolved into a leader on that team. When your best player is the hardest working player and has more passion for winning than he does building his personal statistics, I think you have the type of star that can win championships. How much do you see similar when you played and now watch Kirill Kaprizov and compare him to Sidney Crosby, who, let's be honest, Sidney Crosby's probably at the top of the mountain right now when it comes to current players. So I know it's probably not a fair thing to throw out there, but are there similarities in your eyes?
100%. Yeah, I've said this before. They're extremely similar in my eyes, from the way they work, the way they prepare, and continue to work on their game, like are never not working on their game. They're so similar in that way, but the way they play the game, the way that their body type is, they've got these massive legs and they play this game low to the ice, and they never stop working. They're just they're both just like put their head down. We're gonna play 60 minutes, maybe 65 minutes, and eventually I'm gonna get the best of you. It's just it's incredible how similar they are. I mean, I know that's high. That's a high praise for Kirill, obviously, because Sid's, I mean, for our generation, I think he's probably the best player that we have. But that is how good he is, honestly. I mean, he's worth mentioning as a comparable player, I think, with when you just look at how they play the game. So he is that special, and I don't say that lightly because I have a ton of respect for Sid, and I think he's that incredible.
It's funny because we had Tony Granato on the show here a couple weeks ago, and Tony coached in Pittsburgh, mutual friend, obviously, and he talked about how there were days when the coaches had to drag Crosby off the ice because he just wouldn't stop working. And I Wild fans ask me all the time that Kirill Kaprizov comes up in every conversation I have with Wild fans, and I know you know where I'm going here, but literally I've watched this guy at every point in the season, not just training camp, not just October. I'm talking the dog days of the season in February into March, stay on the ice until they literally have to say, hey, we've got a college team coming in here to use this ice. Can you please start picking up the pucks and leave? And like, he's out there working on something. Sometimes it's with Zuccarello. Sometimes they're just playing some goofy shooting game. But a lot of times he's just working individually on his skills. And he does so because he's just insanely driven for one thing, and that's to win. And so when Tony was telling me about some of the things he saw with Crosby, I immediately went to what I've seen, and I know you've seen with Kirill, and that gives me the feeling like, Goose, I've always felt that Stanley Cups end up finding their way to special players, and he, to me, feels like that type of player. I believe in my heart of hearts at some point this guy's going to win a cup. I happen to believe he's not leaving Minnesota, and it's going to happen here. And looking at him and Crosby and listening to you talk about him and knowing that you don't throw a lot of BS around, you're a pretty serious guy, it just gives me more belief.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the exact same thing. I think Stanley Cups find those players. I think he's one of those players. I don't think he's going to leave Minnesota. I sure hope I'm right. I think I am. And yeah, he's completely that way. He'll be the last player on the ice, and not just at practices. He'll go out on optional morning skates and be the last player on the ice. I mean, it's incredible, and it's not. I mean, there's some players that might do it because it looks good or whatever. It is literally, this guy loves hockey, and he wants to be the best, and he wants to work on his game. That's all it is. And it's like, he's not trying to impress anybody. He's built that way. That's the way he works, and it's part of the reason why he's so special.
No question. The other player I wanted to ask you about plays your position, and he put the bar up pretty high last year in his rookie season. And just when you watch Brock Faber, when you've played with Brock Faber, in your eyes, what makes him such a wonderful hockey player, and how good can this guy be? Because you've seen it all in your time in the National Hockey League, and I look at Brock Faber as one of those type of defensemen that an organization can build around for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he is so good. I mean, in every facet of the game. I mean, he might, maybe minus Cale Makar. I think he's probably the best skater back there in the league.
Wow.
And I mean, the way he moves and he's a big kid. I mean, he probably weighs 220 pounds, and I mean, he's just everything. He's got a perfect stick. He's got great feet. He's big. He'll play a physical game. Doesn't have to. He's great with the puck. I mean, he's got everything. And it's so awesome that the Wild were able to lock him up. And I think people are going to look back at that deal in a couple of years and say that's one of the best in hockey.
Okay, so now I want to segue away from hockey and into some of the other things you like to do. And I know this from our conversation, I think a year ago. Cooking has become something that you've grown into and become quite adroit at. Where did your passion for cooking come from?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, my mom's a great cook, but I never really did it with her growing up. My wife's a really good cook, and I think we kind of just grabbed onto it together. I mean, we're pretty conscious of what we're putting in our bodies, as an athlete and just as us as individuals. So that probably is part of it. We want to eat healthy, and a lot of times in order to do that, you got to do it yourself or find ways to get creative in the kitchen. So I don't know. I think we both just kind of loved doing it and had a passion for it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's where it comes from.
Where did you and Amanda meet?
We met in college. I was at the U. She was St. Thomas girl, so we met my last year in college, and she was a couple years younger, and kind of stayed in contact and started dating. Uh, maybe like 20 2008, maybe, I don't know, but yeah. So just kept in touch while I was in Pittsburgh, and rekindled when I came back to Minnesota for the summer, and been was dating ever since, and got married. What would it be? 12 years ago now, almost 12 years.
And some of my favorite memories of that night in November of 2022 were um, we had camera shots of your family in the suite, and we had been up there to talk to your parents earlier during the game, so our director and our producer know exactly where your family's sitting. You score that goal, and they cut away. I believe it's Amanda and the kids, and she's trying to point to the jumbotron, and it all happens so fast, right? If like it's a blink of an eye, and all of a sudden you're in the corner being mobbed by your teammates, and especially if kids are trying to figure it out that that's dad. She was trying to kind of, I think, sift through some of the details of what had just happened, and just the pure excitement of everybody in that suite. It made it just, that was the icing on the cake for me as I look back at that.
Yeah, that was good camera work there. That was awesome. I'm glad that they were able to get that shot. Yeah, yeah. Amanda was jumping up and down. I think she was holding our son, and
Yes.
daughter was there. Kind of, I think my daughter was like, "What happened?" But it was, yeah, yeah. To see them, react that way was awesome too. So just, yeah, an awesome moment, and that's what made it so special. Is everyone was in on it with me, all the family. So it's great.
Pretty cool. So now we've come to the final segment of our conversation today. It's called the Hat Trick Hot Seat. Alex, I got three quick questions for you. There's no wrong answer. It's just top of the head, what comes to mind, maybe from the heart. And they're kind of off the beaten path questions. They can be. I'll start with this one. You got a lot of years in the National Hockey League. If you're given the off night, the green light, you've got a blip in the schedule, and you're out on the road, and it's just you and the guys. What was your very favorite city to have that off night in the NHL?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
There's a lot of good
Um,
choices.
there are. Let's go. Let's go New York City.
My favorite. When people ask me, and I get this question a lot, that's the first place I think of.
Love it. Love visiting there.
There's something for everybody. I couldn't live there, but
Yep,
but whether it's food, entertainment, there is literally something for everybody. And there's an energy in that city that I don't get anywhere else. I'll
totally.
call Winnipeg a close second, and we'll move on. I'm kidding. Um, I don't know how far you are into the movies, but if you have a favorite sports movie, is there one go-to movie that maybe you always go back to, that's your all-time favorite, and it has some type of sports story involved in it?
Um, I kind of have I have like a guilty pleasure sports
Yes.
movie, Draft Day. I don't know if
Oh
you've
wow!
seen it.
I never would have guessed that. Kevin
It's
Costner.
so cheesy, and
It
like
is.
it is, but it's so good. I love it. Every time it's on, I watch it. Every plane ride on Delta, I watch Draft Day. I don't know why.
I
I just love it.
In a million years, I wouldn't have guessed that. That's why I love these questions. There's no wrong answer, right?
Yeah.
That's just cheesy goodness. If you want to go back a little further in his timetable, he made another really cheesy movie that I absolutely love. It's called For the Love of the Game, and
Oh,
it's
so good.
oh, okay, yeah, you're a movie
Yeah,
guy. Then
I've
okay,
seen it.
we're on the same
Oh yeah.
wavelength here. Same. It's got some cheese to it, right? Kelly Preston, the whole
Yeah,
thing, but it's so
totally.
good,
I
so good.
know.
All right, final one. You're going to be golfing. The weather's been great, and you're given the chance because you're Alex Goligoski to pick your foursome, and they're going to fly in any other three guys living right now to fill out your foursome, and it's this weekend. Who makes up the other three guys in this fantasy foursome when you hit the tee box over the weekend?
Oh my gosh. That's so hard.
No wrong answers.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's go Tiger because
Of
it's
course.
golf and it's Tiger.
Yeah. Yes.
And then oh man. I'm gonna have to go with my boy Aaron Rodgers. He was my guy I looked up to growing up. I loved Aaron Rodgers. And he's a good golfer.
He's a very good golfer. I do know that.
Yeah. So he'd be an interesting guy to ride along with in a cart, I'm
For
sure. And then let's see. What else could we go with? How about you know what? And I'll bring my best buddy, Jack Keeney from Grand Rapids, Minnesota. My best friend, best man at my wedding. He can hop on the plane with me and go golf. He's a terrible golfer, but it would be
doesn't matter. Tiger will straighten him out.
I don't know. You haven't seen his swing.
Well, I mean, somebody fixed Charles Barkley's swing, and that thing just hurt watching it. So I guess you never know. Bottom line is, he's your guy, and you're taking care of your guy, and you get to play with A-Rod and Tiger Woods. So that's a story that he can take to his grave as maybe one of the greatest weekends of his life. So I get it. That's phenomenal. And that brings us all the way back to where we all started the conversation about 45 minutes ago, back to beautiful Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Alex, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I love you because you're real, and I've thoroughly enjoyed covering you. You're an absolute class act, and today was spectacular. Just hearing some of these great stories, and then your opinion on Brock and Kirill, I know our listeners are going to greatly appreciate. So thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thank you. I feel the exact same way. Happy to do it, and a big fan of yours as well, Gorgie.
I'll see you around the rink. There he goes, everybody. Alex Goligoski, former Gopher, and of course, former member of the Minnesota Wild. We're back after a quick break right here on Wooden Sticks. All right, we're back, and as expected, and I think you could tell in the tenure of his voice that there's still some raw emotion involved in a lot of this stuff, going back to where it all began in Grand Rapids and evolving as kind of a late bloomer, as he mentioned, and then, I think really blossoming as a hockey player when he got to the U of M and the Pittsburgh Penguins taking that chance on a defenseman that might have been a little undersized, but always had great rink savvy. And just watching him play over these years, he never put himself in a bad spot. He thought the game, and tremendous vision on the rink, and a ton of skill. Like, I think very understated, but you look at that celebration for 1,000 and that goal he scored, and this is on the back end of his career, he's still able to make those type of plays. That's the guy he was. He always was that offensive weapon from the blue line that wasn't a player you could beat on the other side of the puck defensively. And I think he's going to be a huge asset for this organization. He's just a tremendous hockey guy. So I really enjoyed my conversation with the Goose today. You can hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. Find me at Gorgomatic21. If you have any suggestions for guests here on the show, we're going to keep the fire burning with Wild hockey, but we've got college hockey coming. We've got high school hockey on the horizon. So if you've got some guests that you would love to hear from, I'd love to hear from you. And if you have anybody that wants to be a sponsor on the show, Andrew Height, Height at talknorth.com, AHEYDT. That's where you find the guy we call Whitey. Thanks again for listening. We're back next week with another great episode of Wooden Sticks from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.